For more reaction on that ANC manifesto, I'm joined in studio by the CEO of BLSA, Bonang Mohale. Thanks so much for your time on SABC News. In that run-up to that manifesto, BLSA said they wanted to hear about the economy, jobs, education and land. Are you satisfied with what you heard?
Absolutely, and thank you for having me. So we are emboldened by the fact that President Matamela, Cyril Ramaphosa, seems to really get it. Correctly diagnosed what our problems are. The solutions are absolutely spot on. The biggest challenge is execution. It is the doing where we normally fall short. So for us, we are clear that we're not trying to boil the ocean or to save the world. There are 6 big burning platform issues. The issue of land reform, not just expropriation without compensation. The issue of transformation so that this economy looks like us. The issue of growth, because if we don't grow, very soon we'll be talking about the redistribution of poverty, not of wealth. The issue of jobs, so that people can get their self-respect and their self-esteem back, so that they can provide for their own families rather than looking at government. The issue of education is absolutely critical for us. And lastly, we are in a fiscal crisis. It's not like we have a lot of room. A lot of state-owned enterprises are trading recklessly. Most of them, their debt is absolutely permanent.
When we're looking at international reactions to the rand falling about 1% this morning, and people attributing that to market reaction, not so happy with what happened on the weekend, and also worries about what the ANC was talking about with regards to the Reserve Bank.
The ANC has been absolutely explicit to say, even though it's a resolution of NASREC to review the mandate of the South African Reserve Bank, that for now they're not going to do anything. By the way, this is not new. The ANC has a reputation of taking many resolutions and a poor record of executing on those resolutions. Unfortunately, what drives share prices is rumor and speculation. So when you talk about things that are not helpful, we affect how credit ratings view us, and therefore what score do they give us, but also the sentiment that both investors and indeed the analysts think of us. So we're cutting our face to spite our own, we're cutting our nose to spite our own face, and we continue to score our own goals.
You've spoken about that poor track record of implementation. Why would it be different under Cyril Ramaphosa compared to other people, in your opinion?
For many reasons. First, he's not a career politician, but a businessman. This is a constitutionalist who gave President Mandela the Constitution in 1996 to sign. Thirdly, this is a person that has gone through the ranks, a unionist, therefore will connect with Labour, the Secretary General of the National Union of Mine Workers, who gave Anglo-American their first bloody nose. So when you look at the unique skills that he brings to this country at this time, when so many of us dare to hope that joy and peace will prevail, we could not think of a better qualified person to be able to hold the ANC together, usher in a new dawn, develop close personal, intimate relationship, not just with business, but with all social partners. This is a president that is unashamedly both pro-poor and pro-business, because the two can live side by side. It's a both and together at the same time, not either or.
Before we go into jobs of the ANC manifesto, I'm understanding what you're saying, but also the ANC is not just made up of the president, and there's been a criticism that the culture within the ANC is very damaged from people within the ANC, senior people. So regardless of what Cyril Ramaphosa wants to do, if the culture of implementation is not there, and to bring up that example of what Lumkile Mondi is saying, if you can't even deliver toilets, how are you expected to deliver bigger things like a stable economy, like jobs and land?
The Harvard Business Review article of October 2010 talks about the significance that leadership has as an impact on an organization. At that time it was 30%, today it's more than 50%. Therefore, even though within the ANC today, there are still probably 20 ministers that aided and abetted state capture. When a new leader comes, it's about making sure that these people that you find there first toe the line. The president has been very clear. He promised us 3 things. First, he said the initial cabinet reshuffle, 23 changes, 10 ministers lost their job. That's very brave. Compared to the people that stayed with the former president to survive 12 cabinet reshuffles, and indeed 12 votes of no confidence. Secondly, he said, this is going to be a country of laws, not of men. So it doesn't make sense to keep a former president that the apex court has found to have failed to uphold, respect, and protect the Constitution. The only job description you have as the president. Lastly, he said, my cabinet is too big, too bloated, and I think it needs to be trimmed. The same can be said about all state-owned enterprises. And in so doing, we remember that Mandela's cabinet was 20, Mbeki's was 23. This is 37. So there's a bit of room that if I don't catch those through the cabinet reshuffle, some of them don't go to prison, I will simply not appoint them when I reduce the size of my cabinet. So we are emboldened, hopeful.
On jobs, the manifesto yesterday, Cyril Ramaphosa, as president of the ANC, says we've advanced the rights of workers and protected vulnerable workers through progressive labour legislation. That minimum wage of 3,000 rand and even less for domestic workers, can we really say that's protecting vulnerable workers by saying that even if you're a domestic worker in South Africa today, the Department of Labour says you don't even deserve to earn a minimum wage?
I think the people who are questioning the floor, not the ceiling, are missing the point. Firstly, we did not, as the four social partners, come up with the national minimum wage. We came up with a 5 package of labor reforms, not just one, 5. Therefore, when you say from the 1st of January 2019, nobody is allowed to pay below 20, 18, and 15 for various job groups, it does not mean that if you can afford to pay your domestic worker R1 million a day, you shouldn't do so. But it says you can't go below. You can certainly go up. In the energy sector, for instance, all those drivers are earning more than 10,000 a month. The national minimum wage does not mean that now the 6 refineries in the country are going to reduce their salaries to 30,500 a month. That's not what it means. But also what it means, it says for business, it needs to find a new role for itself. The role of business, of course, is to survive, but is to ensure that it delivers on what it says and it promises. It is to do no harm, but also to do everything in its power to make sure that this is indeed a better world. Lastly, is to give us ethical leadership that is highly engaged, is in touch with the needs of its own people. The idea is not to address the executive pay, but to make sure that it brings up the pay of everybody else. The biggest challenge we have as the four social partners is how do we take the bottom half to put them into the middle class, so that the majority of our students that are institutions of higher learning can say they come from households that have more combined household income of more than 600,000.
So how long then can we say that while there is this excitement from not only BLSA but from a lot of other business organizations, we're now going to see tangible measures that South Africa's economy is going to grow, not at this rate of around 1%, but bigger? Because if there's all this confidence, our investment strike should be over, our economic growth should be much higher than what it's predicted to be, and much higher than it is.
I think you raise some very profound issues. Let me tell you what gives us hope. This time last year, Madam Cyril Ramaphosa was deputy president. He led us to Davos. Well received, and I think for the first time we packed those rooms to the rafters. He gave us a new board at Eskom, which is troubled, when he was deputy president, when there was a sitting Minister of Public Enterprises, Barbara Hogan, who herself had aided and abetted state capture. So those changes were made. But also he has a president that has changed the boards of Dinel and SABC, moved the head of these institutions from the joke that we were, from Ellen Chabalala to Saudi Mutswening, to put in effective and efficient people that know the difference between income and cash. Therefore, we place a lot of hope in the president, not because he's going to do it alone, because as business, we desperately want to see him succeed. You see, when a bird is sitting on a tree, it's not worried when the branch breaks, because it doesn't put its hope on the branch, but on its own wings, its ability to fly. Therefore, we bring in the ability of business to deliver, because project management is to deliver mega projects on time, on budget, and in full. Therefore, we want to be active partners as compatriots, but also as conscientious capital that is going to work with Labour as a friend, not as an enemy, to make sure that we help to deliver the growth that we need, because we know that we are way below our actual potential, that many South Africans are not even operating at their full potential, let alone just at mere potential.
Thanks so much for your time on SABC News. CEO of BLSA, Bonang Mohale. Now